Unfortunately, there was a period there with the Tidewater Inn where things weren't going that well, and it had gone to auction. And
Wow.
this goes back now a good 10 years ago plus, and we were looking at it at the time, and we were not successful at the auction. The Freeman companies were. Josh Freeman, was a very fine guy. He tragically died in a helicopter crash. But the Freeman Company is a big company, and they had all the resources to do something like this. And all the people that met with Mr. Freeman just thought he was terrific. I think, unfortunately, I'm not sure they had the best business plan, but they certainly had the right intentions and the resources and so on. And so after Mr. Freeman passed away, the Freeman Companies decided to sell it. And there was almost a 2-year period there with us negotiating, if you will, with that. And at the end of the day, we were successful in acquiring it, and that was in October of 2009. One of the pervasive thoughts was, somebody's got to do this, It's just too wonderful an asset for the community, and it had too much potential and too much history. So really, that was one of the major thoughts of us, that we thought we did have a business plan that would work, and we thought that we could, make it work, and it needed to happen. So a lot of the people that looked at this property were thinking about it from the standpoint of converting it to residential.
Okay.
And a lot of people thought about that. I think had this come on the market at a different time, some folks may have done that. Again, this was on the market 2007 and 8, which was not a good economic time, and not a time when financing was particularly available for a hotel, an independent hotel that had a history of at least 15 years of not being economically viable, and have gone to bankruptcy and for sale again, and wasn't an easy time. So I think had it been on the market either before or after that time, maybe somebody would have come in here and tried to do condominiums, apartments, something with it. That was not our plan. Our basic plan was, we've been in what I would call the celebration market for a long time. And our business at the Chesapeake Bay Beach Club on Kent Island, which we started in 1999, has been a lot of weddings, a lot of corporate retreats, a lot of celebrating events. And this building is perfect for that. They're magnificent ballrooms and first floors. It was very well laid out from the standpoint where the kitchen is. The kitchen's in the center and can service ballrooms on both sides of it. The service to the back was good. The height, the light, the big windows, fantastic for that. So our business plan was that if we could invest in heating, air conditioning, make the bathrooms bigger, deal with parking, all those kinds of things, that we could bring the celebration market back to this building. We also didn't have to totally rely on, as a hotel or an inn, on room revenue. We could rely on restaurant revenue, wedding revenue, corporate meeting revenue, and so on. And so that has happened. So the year before we got here, they did 9 weddings for the whole year, and now this time of year we've got 1 or 2, certainly every Friday or Saturday, and we've been able to bring back that sense of celebration to it. And then that has all the spin-offs. So if you're coming here for a wedding, then you probably would stay here. You have your rehearsal dinner here. You use the bar. All that kind of works. And when that lively thing begins to happen, if you can produce good food and a good restaurant, then the locals mostly think of you as a place to go eat, or as a place to have a party or a reunion or something like that. And so we were happily doing that. The town has been very helpful to us, and they've showed it in a number of ways. One of the first ones was that we wanted to do a parking lot swap with the town. Up behind where it used to be called Mason's Restaurant, there was a parking lot owned by the Tidewater, and behind the Tidewater here, there was a parking lot owned by the town. We basically wanted to swap those, and there's always somebody that doesn't want anything to happen. And so they did get some resistance to that. But the town saw and we wound up improving that parking lot, paving it, lighting it, striping it for them. And then we took the old parking lot here. So now our folks that are staying in our hotel can park right behind the hotel. We're just fortunate that when we came along here, we had resources. We had the money and the experience that we could put in play and not be worried about payroll tomorrow morning. Yeah. And so had somebody come in here with a typical plan or a similar plan to ours, but not had the resources to stick with it and work the plan, it may not have been successful. So that we were just fortunate with that. One of the things that I sort of testified when we were doing this parking lot swap with the town was, if we can bring 50 or 100 weddings in here at 100 apiece, all those people are coming from out of town, and here's what they have in common. They are coming to a free event usually. They're celebrating, they're in the mood to celebrate, and what they do is they eat and drink and buy stuff. And from gasoline to going out into that community looking for something to send home, take back. So most of the folks that come here want to have some of their events with us, and some they want to get out of this building, and so they go into this wonderful town and walk the streets and so on. I was in the marina business for 35 years, and I call it the waterfront business. And we had owned the biggest marina in New England, Marina Bay in Quincy, Massachusetts. And a guy named Tom Pompelli owned Pier 1 Marina, which became the Bay Bridge Marina. And he was selling boats at our marina in Boston, and asked me to come and help him a little bit with a business plan and some legal stuff that he was involved with. And it just so happened that I'm an expert in federal court on waterfront and marine evaluation. And so I came down and helped him a little bit with that. And he then, we kept up our conversation, and at some point somebody came along in Boston, offered us a deal we couldn't refuse for that marina. And we wound up buying from Tom 6 acres on the waterfront between Bay Bridge Marina and the county's little airport there, right on the Chesapeake Bay, and created the Chesapeake Bay Beach Club. And that plan was formulated in 1997 and 8, and we opened in 99. We have 3 ballrooms there. And on any given weekend, we might do in September and May and June, and we might do 7 or 8 weddings. And so there's a lot of people looking for hotel rooms in conjunction with these weddings, and a hotel was a natural for us there. So we started that thinking back in 2000. I wound up starting to negotiate with the county, and in probably around 2014 in there somewhere, we wound up with a 99-year lease on 15 acres right on top of Route 50, right next to the beach club, zone for commercial activity. And so that's where that began. I did not want to do a typical franchised hotel that looked like every other property you've ever seen. We wanted to do something special. And so over time, we created a complex there that has to begin with, a 54-room boutique hotel, has a market, restaurant, bakery, a lot of function space. We have our own spa there. We have our own ballroom with a big outdoor courtyard to it, and we have chef's gardens. We have all kinds of wonderful things in this complex. And that opened in October of 2015, and we are already now working on the next phase of this, which will include a 21-room small inn that goes with this. And we are now working with others on doing a brewery, a brew pub, a music barn, distillery. Usually we're not interested in 15 properties and growing all over the place. Having 3 or 4 wonderful operations that we enjoy being part of and working every day. So for a long time, enjoyed the thinking it through, the puzzle coming together, the building, the financing, the architecture, the hiring, all that, and then really the joy is when it works and you're there and all these people come in and they enjoy it and they tell you they do. That's all fun to us. And so you need a champion in a community to make something happen, or champions. And so you need somebody in that community that has some political and economic power to articulate a vision of something that they want. A way to do that is to find a project that you would like yours to be similar to, like your comment on Oberlin College. So we would go, if there's a champion there or a group that says we want something that looks and acts like this, then you would say, what do we need to do to make that happen here? So some of that is permitting. If you're in permitting hell for 5 years, that the problem with that, in addition to finding somebody that's willing to go through 5 years of permitting hell, is that the economic conditions change in that period of time. And if something takes too long, now conditions might get better, but they might get worse. And so conditions for that property or for that financing or for that individual, you might talk to somebody that's very interested in doing it today, but 5 years from now, their situation changes. That champion group needs to say, what do we need to make this project successful? We have a time period. We have a reality of financing. We have to understand what the financing would look like to make this happen. So, there is TIF financing that communities can do and so on. Communities can add to infrastructure, they can add to land value. There's a lot of things that somebody can do to help. We talked about, if the college wanted to do something, if they could guarantee some room nights, and then look at an economic model that really can happen. And then you need local folks that are willing to kind of go to the mat and make it happen and identify the things that would be necessary to put in place for that to be a successful project. One reality, for example, is Washington College is in the Centennial Conference. Centennial Conference, almost all the teams go by bus. They don't come spend the night. So when the University of Maryland goes to play South Carolina, they fly down there and they stay in a hotel. But when Goucher College comes to Washington College, they come in a bus and they go home. In fact, most of them come and the parents come and feed them. They don't even go to a local restaurant. So the economic impact to a hotel there is minimum from that. Now that doesn't mean that there's not visiting people come all the time. Parents come for weekends and so on. So there's a lot of that goes on, but not as much as some communities where people are coming from a bigger distance and there's more of an impact. So you have to understand that to begin with. And I think therefore that project would have to find some other sources of revenue, whether it's doing weddings in that or some kind of a sense of a retirement village that's combined with it, or the college does a bunch of support, in some way. So I think you'd have to put an economic model together that has the reality of that town. So, we have at the Beach Club, we got very fortunate in our early years. We have a lot of teachers that, come in, particularly on our weekends, and serve guests. Oh. And they're articulate and they're intelligent and they're easy to talk to. And then as they, we've been there now 16 years, so now we're on our third or fourth set of teacher groups that come there. And now we've done it long enough that some of them have come with us full-time or more part-time. And so we've had a lot of, training within our company and people being able to move up. And we just did this summer, we gave out some awards for people that had been there 15 years, 10 years, 12 years, 8 years, and there was a lot of them. We have investors in our projects. I think that's a good idea, whether you need them economically or not. They kind of keep you honest. So regular financial statements, and having to explain your business plan and what you're doing is a good idea. I think the partners we have, the investors we have, are the kind of folks that we want to be talking to on a regular basis, and that we look for their input and their support.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.